Listen carefully, because the numbers you're seeing on your screen right now are not a glitch. We have officially crossed the event horizon of a global banking system meltdown. While the mainstream media is busy debating political optics, the Federal Reserve has just issued a quiet, behind-the-scenes panic alert regarding $15 or gasoline. This isn't just about the cost of your commute. It's a signal that the very foundation of the Western financial world, the US dollar, has hit its absolute breaking point. We are witnessing the simultaneous collapse of the currency and the energy system that backed it. If you have money in a traditional bank account, you are standing on a fault line that is about to rupture. Today, we're doing the forensics on why the Fed is terrified and how silver is becoming the last life raft. Why are the banks melting down? It's simple. Collateral. For 50 years, the U.S. banking system relied on the petrodollar. Every loan, every mortgage, and every massive corporate debt was essentially backed by the idea that oil would always be traded in dollars, keeping the currency's value high. But as Maduro in Venezuela and the BRICS nations move away from the greenback, the collateral is vanishing. The banks are realizing that the trillions of dollars on their balance sheets are becoming worthless paper. This is why you see unconfirmed pricing in the markets. No one knows how to value a dollar that no longer buys cheap oil. The $15 gas alert is the Fed's way of saying the dollar's purchasing power has been cut in half, and the banks are the first to feel the impact. Enter Nicolas Maduro. The man Washington spent a decade trying to overthrow is now the one holding the American banking system hostage. Venezuela's massive heavy crude reserves are the only thing that can feed American refineries, but Maduro has struck a deal with the East. By demanding payment in gold, silver, or local currencies, he has effectively unplugged the US dollar from the world's largest oil supply. This is the Caracas trap. The Fed can't print more oil, and they can't force Maduro to accept depreciating dollars anymore. Every time Maduro smiles in a press photo, another brick falls out of the Wall Street Foundation. This geopolitical shift is the primary reason why your local gas prices are skyrocketing toward $15, and there's absolutely nothing the Fed can do to stop it. Donald Trump has been sounding the alarm on this energy trap for months, and now his predictions are turning into a cold, hard reality. His rage against the current administration's energy policy isn't just about politics. It's about the mathematical certainty of a collapse. Trump knows that without energy dominance, the United States loses its status as a superpower. When he speaks about the banking system meltdown, he is pointing to the fact that our debt-to-GDP ratio has become unsustainable without cheap energy to fuel growth. The political tension in Washington today is a reflection of a government that has run out of options. They are fighting over the scraps of a dying empire while the rest of the world moves on to a resource-based economy where oil and silver are the real kings. Let's talk about the $15 gas alert. For the average American, UK, or Canadian citizen, $15 a gallon is the end of life as we know it. It means the end of the suburbs, the end of the trucking industry, and the end of affordable food. The Fed knows that once gas hits this level, the banking system will face a wave of defaults like we have never seen. People will have to choose between paying their mortgage or filling their tank to get to work. Most will choose the tank, and the banks will be left with millions of worthless properties. This is why the alert is a panic alert. They are trying to prepare the system for a massive contraction, where the middle class is effectively wiped out to save the central banks. While the dollar dies, silver is hitting its own breaking point. As people lose faith in the banking system, they are rushing into physical assets, and silver is the primary target. But there's a problem. There isn't enough of it. China has been quietly vacuuming up the world's silver supply for years, knowing that it is the essential ingredient for the 2026 tech and energy transition. The silver squeeze isn't just a meme. It's a systemic shortage that is driving the price to a level that will break the COMEX and the big banks like JP Morgan. When you combine $15 gas with a silver shortage, you get a perfect storm where the paper world is destroyed by the physical world. Your digital wealth is being vaporized, while those holding physical resources are becoming the new elite. The U.S. national debt is the elephant in the room that no politician wants to address honestly. At over $34 trillion, the interest payments alone are now costing more than the entire defense budget. To keep the lights on, the Fed has to keep interest rates high, but high rates are what's killing the banks. It's a classic catch-22. If they lower rates to save the banks, inflation goes to the moon and gas hits $20. If they keep rates high to fight inflation, the banks collapse under the weight of their own debt. We are at the final stage of this debt cycle. The breaking point mentioned in the title is the moment where the system can no longer handle the pressure from both sides. The meltdown is the only logical conclusion to decades of financial insanity. Look at the alliance between Venezuela, Russia, and China. They have created a resource fortress that the West cannot penetrate. In 2026, the power has shifted from the people who print money to the people who pump oil and mine metals. Maduro's defiance is backed by Chinese capital and Russian security. This trio has realized that they don't need the New York Stock Exchange to thrive. They only need each other. By withholding oil and silver from the Western markets, they are forcing a devaluation of the dollar that is faster than anything we've seen in history. This energy and mineral blockade is the real reason why your bank is issuing unconfirmed warnings about your account security. They are preparing for a world where the US dollar is no longer the global reserve. The petrodollar was the glue that held the world together, and that glue has melted. When Saudi Arabia and Venezuela stopped selling oil exclusively for dollars, the US lost its exorbitant privilege. We can no longer print kagaz, paper, and trade it for real energy. This is why the Fed is in a panic. They are losing their ability to control the global economy. The $15 gas price is a direct reflection of the dollar's loss of value. If the dollar was still backed by oil, gas would still be $3. The difference between 3 and 15 is the collapse premium. You are paying for the failure of the American foreign policy and the end of the petrodollar era every time you swipe your card at the pump. Your local bank is not safe. Most retail banks in the US, UK, and Canada are heavily exposed to commercial real estate and government debt, two sectors that are currently imploding. The banking system meltdown isn't just about the big guys on Wall Street, it's about the bank on your street corner. As the dollar hits the breaking point, these banks will face liquidity crises. We are already seeing ghost week traps where banks limit withdrawals or manipulate the silver and gold prices to prevent people from leaving the system. The Fed's panic alert is a signal to the big banks to brace for a bank run. If everyone tried to take their money out tomorrow, the system would collapse in less than an hour. The illusion of safety is gone. So, how do you survive a meltdown of this magnitude? The first step is realizing that the old rules don't apply. Saving dollars in a bank account is no longer a safe strategy. It is a guaranteed way to lose purchasing power. The economic forensics of 2026 suggests that wealth is being transferred from paper to things you can touch, see, and hold. This is why silver is so critical. It is the poor man's gold, but it has more industrial utility. When the banking system resets, the new currency will likely be backed by a basket of commodities, including oil and silver. Those who understand this breaking point are already moving their wealth into decentralized assets. You cannot wait for the mainstream news to confirm the collapse. By then, the doors to the life rafts will be closed. The secret oil deal between Maduro and China is the final nail in the coffin. China is providing Venezuela with the infrastructure to bypass the Western financial system entirely. In exchange, China gets a guaranteed supply of heavy crude at a fixed price, while the rest of the world has to fight for the scraps at $15 a gallon. This deal effectively removes millions of barrels from the market that the U.S. refineries rely on. The Fed knows about this deal, and that's why they are panicking. It means the U.S. can no longer use sanctions as a weapon. Maduro has won the energy war, and the American consumer is the one who will pay the bill. The Caracas trap is now a permanent feature of the global economy. What does it look like when a currency hits the breaking point? It looks like unconfirmed pricing. It looks like your favorite grocery store having empty shelves because the shipping company can't afford the diesel. It looks like your bank updating its terms of service to prevent you from moving your money. We are seeing all of these signs right now. The dollar's breaking point is not a single day. It is a process of disintegration. The $15 gas alert is just one milestone on the road to hyperinflation. The Fed's panic is a reflection of their loss of control. They have spent all their ammunition, and the enemy, inflation and resource scarcity, is still advancing. This is the reality of the 2026 economic reset. For years, banks like JP Morgan have been accused of manipulating the price of silver to keep the dollar looking strong. But you can only hold a beach ball underwater for so long. As the banking system melts down, these banks are losing their ability to short silver. The physical demand from China and retail investors is overwhelming the paper market. The breaking point for silver will be a vertical spike where the price doubles or triples in a matter of days. This will bankrupt the banks that are on the wrong side of the trade, further accelerating the meltdown. The silver shortage is not a theory. It is a documented fact that the Fed is trying to manage through panic injections of cash into the system. Speaking of injections, the Federal Reserve has been pumping billions into the repo market to keep the banks afloat. But it's like trying to put out a forest fire with a water pistol. The sheer scale of the debt and the energy crisis is too large for the Fed's balance sheet. Every billion they print makes the $15 gas problem worse. They are trapped in a cycle of emergency injections that only accelerate the end of the dollar. The panic alert is a confession that they are out of ideas. They are now just trying to manage the descent so that the entire social fabric doesn't tear apart. But as Trump points out, you cannot manage a disaster that you created through decades of bad policy and overprinting. We must consider the human cost of this meltdown. In the UK and Canada, we are already seeing heat or eat crises. In the US, the $15 gas alert will lead to a civil unrest scenario. When people can't get to work and can't buy bread, they don't care about the Fed's balance sheet. They care about survival. This is the breaking point for society. The government is aware of this, which is why we see a move toward digital IDs and more surveillance. They are preparing for the backlash that will come when the banking system officially surrenders. The Venezuela trap is not just about oil. It's about a government losing control of its people because it can no longer provide the basics of life. We are in the middle of a shadow war that is being fought with oil nozzles and silver bars instead of missiles. The U.S. military is the most powerful in the world, but it runs on oil. If the supply is cut off by Maduro and his allies, the planes don't fly and the tanks don't move. This is the strategic vulnerability that China has exploited. By cornering the energy and mineral markets, they have won the war without firing a shot. The banking system meltdown is just the financial fallout of a lost geopolitical war. The Fed's panic is the panic of a general who realizes his supply lines have been cut. The dollar is the casualty of this war, and your savings are the collateral damage. Throughout history, every fiat currency has eventually returned to its intrinsic value, zero. The US dollar is no exception. The breaking point we are at in 2026 is the end of the 100-year experiment with unbacked paper money. The only way out of the meltdown is a return to sound money, money that cannot be printed by a panicked Fed. This is why silver and oil are so vital. They represent reality in a world of digital illusions. Maduro knows this, China knows this, and deep down the Fed knows this too. Their alert is a signal that the era of easy money is over, and the era of hard assets has returned with a vengeance. You must align your finances with this reality if you want to survive. The Great Reset is not a conspiracy. It is a necessity for the elites to stay in power as the old system dies. They want to move everyone into a central bank digital currency, CBDC, where they can control your spending and confirm your loyalty. The banking meltdown is the perfect excuse to launch this new system. They will say, the old banks failed, but here is a safe digital dollar. But this new dollar will still be backed by nothing if they don't solve the energy crisis. The $15 gas alert is proof that they can't solve it. The Venezuela trap is a physical reality that digital tricks cannot fix. You must look past the reset and build your own foundation on tangible wealth that the government cannot switch off. As we close this investigation, remember that the banking system meltdown is not a future event. It is happening right now. The Fed's panic, the silver shortage, and the $15 gas alert are all pieces of a puzzle that show the end of the American century. Maduro's smile and Trump's rage are just the faces of a world in transition. The breaking point has been reached. Don't wait for the banks to close their doors or for the gas stations to run dry. Take action now to protect your family and your future. The errors of the past have led to this moment, and the fortunes of the future belong to those who see the truth behind the panic. Stay safe, stay prepared, and we will see you in the next one.